The European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has arrived in Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, for a visit she says will focus on European support as Ukraine prepares for winter. She said the EU aimed to restore power generating capacity, which observers say is a parlous state amid continuing Russian attacks. Ms. von der Leyen also said the bloc would increase electricity exports to Kyiv. Now, the number of identified Russian fighters killed on the front line in Ukraine has hit 70,000. That's according to BBC research. While official statistics may be hard to come by, an investigation by BBC Russia and the independent Russian media outlet Mediazona has been collating data and identifying dead Russian soldiers since the beginning of the war with Ukraine. Our analysis reveals volunteers are increasingly older men with lower incomes and are not surviving long in battle. Olga Evshina reports.
The faces of Russian fighters killed in Ukraine are changing. Now more and more men in their 40s, 50s and even 60s are volunteering for the front line. 62-year-old Renat Husniyarov was one of them. Before he volunteered, he had two jobs. Fighting for Russia, he earned 7 times what he did before. Russian authorities have repeatedly increased sign-up bonuses to attract men like Renat. He died in February this year. We don't know where exactly, but thousands of kilometers away from his home in Russia. Last month, Russian forces faced a Ukrainian offensive in Kursk, the first on Russian territory. The Kremlin claims this attack has encouraged more volunteers to sign up to fight. There are no official figures on the numbers of Russians killed, so since the start of the war, the BBC and its partner Mediazona have been trying to build a picture of what's happening on the front lines. We have been using photos of graves, social media posts and news articles to uncover the scale of Russian losses. So far, we have managed to verify that 70,000 Russian troops have died since the start of the war. The recent figures also show that for the first time, the largest group of men dying are volunteers, not regular soldiers or convicts, but men who have signed up after the start of the full-scale invasion in February 2022. A study from the Russian Ministry of Defense seen by the BBC suggests that many of those deaths could be avoided with better first aid and medical care.
They are fighting a battle where they're not prepared and might not have the needed equipment to fight. There isn't sufficient preparation, and there are also equipment shortages or non-existent equipment for which they have been prepared for those few limited weeks that they have done so.
This graph shows how losses of Russian troops were distributed since the start of the war. Moscow continues to use so-called meat-grinder tactics, trying to wear down Ukrainian forces. And volunteers now seem to be used at the most challenging parts of the front line. Our data shows that volunteers are now dying at a faster rate than in the first 2 years of the war. This spike in the number killed coincides with the Russian offense on Avdiivka in the east of Ukraine. It was one of the deadliest confrontations in this war. Having lost thousands of troops, Russia was able to take ruins of Avdiivka in early 2024. As our count only includes deaths reported publicly, the true figure of losses is significantly higher. Asked for comment, the Russian government did not respond. Early this year, Ukraine acknowledged 31,000 soldiers had been killed, but estimates from the US intelligence suggest the number is higher. Moscow continues to push on, willing to exchange thousands of lives for small pieces of scattered land. Olga Evshina, BBC News.